Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by tall trees and golden fields, there lived a man called Onoha. He was a farmer, strong and proud. He was married to a kind and beautiful woman named Adanna. Onoha longed for sons who could grow up to help him in the fields and carry on his family name. But year after year, Adanna gave birth only to daughters, 4 of them, all lovely and bright. Onoha's heart grew heavy with disappointment. He began to resent Adanna, blaming her for not giving him a son. No matter how much the villagers praised the girls for their kindness and intelligence, Onoha could not see beyond his desire for a boy. He started treating Adanna with coldness and anger, until one day, in a fit of rage, he said to her, "You are of no use to me. Leave my house and never return." Adanna's heart broke, but she knew she had no choice. Taking her daughters with her, she left the house in tears. They walked far from the village, finding shelter in a dense forest. Adanna worked hard to provide for her daughters, teaching them how to live off the land. The girls grew into clever and resourceful young women, full of love and admiration for their mother's strength. Meanwhile, Onoha was left all alone in his house. At first, he told himself he would find another wife who could give him sons. But as days turned into weeks and months, he began to feel the emptiness around him. However, Onoha, stubborn in his desire for a son, remarried not long after Adanna left. His new wife, Ola, was strikingly beautiful, but sharp-tongued and impatient. She promised Onoha she would give him the sons he dreamed of, and Onoha believed her words eagerly. At first, Ola seemed like the perfect wife. She cooked Onoha's meals, kept the house neat, and spoke sweetly to him. But once they were married, her true nature began to show. Ola was lazy and selfish, spending more time adorning herself and gossiping with neighbors than helping on the farm. She wasted the food and money Onoha brought home, and when things didn't go her way, her voice echoed in the house with loud complaints. Onoha brushed off the red flags, convincing himself that once Ola bore him a son, all his problems would vanish. But as time passed, no children came, and Ola's attitude grew worse. She ridiculed Onoha for his hard work, calling him a foolish man who labored too much and achieved too little. "If you were clever," Ola sneered one evening, "you wouldn't have to break your back every day to survive. What good are all your fields if they barely provide enough for us to live on?" Onoha was so tired from a long day of work, and he came home to an empty plate. Ola had eaten her fill and left him nothing. Yet he said nothing. His pride kept him from admitting his mistake or seeking help from others. Day by day, the tension grew. Onoha realized that his home, once filled with the laughter of his daughters, was now a cold and joyless place. Onoha's life became harder with each passing year. Ola continued to waste his earnings and ridicule him. Onoha began to fall into despair. Meanwhile, in the forest, Adanna and her daughters were thriving. The girls, clever and hardworking like their mother, learned how to farm, make beautiful crafts, and sell their goods in nearby villages. They became known far and wide for their various skills. The eldest daughter, Nkechi,
became a skilled weaver, creating clothes that even the wealthiest in the land sought to buy. The second daughter, Amara, became a healer, learning the secrets of plants and using them to treat the sick. The third daughter, Chika, discovered a talent for storytelling, performing in markets and earning great rewards. The youngest, Ifeoma, was the brightest of them all and became a respected teacher. One day, the second daughter said to their mother, "Mother, you have worked so hard for us. Now it is our turn to take care of you. Let us leave the forest and give you the life you deserve." With their savings, the daughters built a beautiful home in a prosperous town and took their mother with them, far from the hardships they had endured. Back in the village, Onoha's life had crumbled. Ola, after spending every bit of wealth he had, left him for another man. He was old now, his strength gone, and no one in the village respected him. Alone and bitter, he began to wonder about Adanna and the daughters he had cast aside. One day, news reached Onoha that his daughters had become successful and were living in luxury. Filled with regret, he decided to seek them out. Limping on tired legs, he made his way to their new home, imagining that they might welcome him back and ease his suffering. He did not want to stay in the village anymore. His last resort was to go and join his daughters, forgetting that these were the same girls he cast out when they needed him the most.
When Onoha arrived at the house, he stood outside because he was in shock. He saw the beautiful place where his wife and daughters now lived. He was met by his wife, who was on her way out to go and get some groceries. When she saw him, she put on a smiley face and gently approached him. She asked him how he had been, and he could not find the words to express how he was feeling at the moment. She told him, "Well, as you can see, you abandoned us when we had nothing. You said you did not want girl children. Now it is those same girl children that have given me this house. It is also the same girl children that have brought smiles to my face. I hope you learn from this and change for the better." When she said this, she told him he could leave now, that she had forgiven him. He told her, "Please, can't I see my daughters, even if it is for the last time?" As he was saying this, the third daughter came out. When her father saw her, he immediately rushed to where she was. He knelt down and told her, "My daughter, can you ever forgive me for what I have done? I am so ashamed of myself right now. Look at how big you have grown, and I don't even know when I saw you last. Please, my daughter, forgive me." She immediately bent towards her father and said, "Father, please stand up. Stand up, Father. We have forgiven you. Please come inside and rest for the day." When Onoha came inside, he was served a plate of food by his daughters, although none of them came near him except for the third daughter. He ate alone in silence, wondering if life would have been different for him if he had treated his 4 daughters with love, and if he never sent their mother out of the house. All he had at this point were just thoughts and imaginations. As he swallowed every spoon he ate, he continued to wonder if his life will ever return to normal. none of his daughters wanted to speak with him, and even the one that spoke with him refused to tell him anything about herself. His wife no longer wanted anything to do with him. At this point, he could just finish his food and hope to make it back to the village.
The next morning, the first daughter, the second daughter, and the fourth daughter were all in a meeting with the father. The third daughter had forgiven her father, but the other three were still finding it very difficult to do that. Hence, they called him for a meeting, but they managed to tell him that they had forgiven him. But the condition of the forgiveness is that he will not remain here with them. They told him that they would be coming to visit him from time to time when they could. However, he needed to go back to the village and bear in mind that they had forgiven him, even though they knew in their hearts that they did not want him to be a part of their lives anymore. The next day, the third sister took the father back to the village, and when she left him in the village, she promised to always come and visit him, even though her work schedule will not really allow her do that, but she promised to do the best that she can. When they had left him in the village, the father sat down to think about his life. He thought about the fact that what he was currently in, he was the one that caused it for himself. He looked at how beautiful and bright his daughters had turned out, and he said, what difference did it make if I had daughters or sons? Look at how responsible my daughters have turned out. They are even doing better than most sons will do. So why did I do this to myself? He was a slave to his thoughts at this point, but nothing could be done. He spent the rest of his days managing to see them when he could and spending the rest in loneliness. While Adana and her four daughters continued to flourish and grow in wisdom, peace, and prosperity. The moral of the story being, it doesn't matter what child you have, the most important thing should be focusing on training the child to be a better person for the family and the society at large.